Now, this won't be the only time you'll hear this phrase this season, but we have a top 25 Big Ten basketball matchup here on Sunday afternoon as Indiana travels to Michigan. And so we're headed over here on StatHouse to do a little bit of a team comparison and game preview for the matchup. We're going to start here with Michigan's substitution rotations, their lineup combinations on the floor for John Beilein's crew. And the first thing that jumps out is quite a bit of reliance on the starting group for John Beilein. That's 149 minutes for his starting five, one of the most heavily used units in the country. When he's not playing his starters, I will say the plus 113 for the starters makes sense why he's playing them so much. Of course, it's their best lineup. Beyond the starting five, what you'll be looking at coming from Michigan is a little bit of small ball combinations with Livers at the 5, or you have a number of permutations here with Brooks coming into the game. We'll get back to some of these small ball lineups here in a bit, but at a large, high level, Michigan is a very starters-reliant team. Now you contrast that here with Indiana's rotation. What does Archie Miller have to work with? And what he's looking at is he has a bit more options, a little bit less reliance on the starting group, coming in about 89 minutes this season. But you take a look, you have Devontae Green even coming in for Finney, and arguably that lineup has been more efficient for Indiana this season, a plus 21 in 34 minutes. At the very least, not seeing much of a drop-off there. And then you have a host of permutations with Fitzner and McRoberts coming into the game as well. But a little bit less reliance on the starting group for Archie Miller. What does that mean? Yeah, if Indiana can get Michigan into some foul trouble, maybe with Teskey, maybe with Poole, maybe with Simpson early on, gives them a slight advantage because of how reliant Michigan is on their starting unit. Now, I promise you I would revisit that small ball lineup with Livers at the 5 for Michigan. When they aren't using their starting 5, you might think, hey, playing small ball, maybe they're going to suffer a little bit of a drop on the glass. Not the case. What we're seeing here is positive rebounding margins, even when they go a little bit of small ball, even when Livers is coming into the game at the 5 without Teskey on the floor. So rebounds, not a problem. What is the drop-off with this Michigan unit when they aren't playing their starters really shows up at turnover margin. So the starting 5 for Michigan, turnover margin plus 22 is actually an elite number across all lineups in the country. The plus 22 turnover margin for Michigan starters would put them at a tie for 6th nationwide across the entire NCAA here. Not so much the case when they go to their bench. So first lineup here with Livers in the game instead of Bristaikis, not quite small ball, but it is a -1 turnover differential. The difference here is just the turnovers that Michigan is committing. The starters rarely turn the ball over so far this year, on average 1 turnover every 8 minutes of game time. However, Livers coming into the game as the first substitution off the bench, that number goes to 1 turnover every 3 minutes of game time, and that's where you see the really big drop-off. So that's the main difference between the lineups there after Beilein goes to his bench. Now on the other side, turnovers as well is a sticking point here for Indiana lineups and Archie Miller. In fact, the starting 5 for the Hoosiers has a negative turnover differential on the season right now, sitting at a -4. It's actually pretty rare that we see a Division I team starting 5 have a negative turnover differential, especially a high major team. That is a problem for Indiana. Right now, 34 turnovers in just 90 minutes on the court together. If they want to go into Ann Arbor and come out with a victory, they're going to have to limit these turnovers. A lot of turnovers early on, especially against Michigan starters, is going to spell trouble for them on the road, and it has plagued them so far this season. Now on the flip side here, what can Indiana do if they want to pull this upset? Take a look at their possession chart here, and this is charting all of their offensive possessions throughout the season. Very strong, 1.2 points per possession if they're getting a shot within the first 5 seconds of the shot clock. Their athletes are strong in transition. If they can get a little bit more, live ball turnovers, if they can push the pace, turn it into a quicker game, that favors them. The other thing you'll notice is a lot of their shots, actually close to 60% of their possessions, end in a shot within the first 15 seconds of the possession. So they are more comfortable playing a bit quicker, taking the first available shot. And if they can do that successfully, that is where they score the best. If they can get Michigan into that type of game, 15-second possession game, it's going to play in the favor of the Hoosiers. And then lastly here, taking a look at the same chart for the Wolverines, and in my opinion, this is a thing of beauty, but it's a very balanced scoring attack throughout all times on the shot clock, all times during the possession. They'll take transition if it's there, not quite as effective as Indiana is. But look at these possessions really spread out from early shots all the way to end of shot clock. Really, it's a patient, methodical offense that Beeline runs, where they're going to take the best shot available, and they don't really care at what time that comes. That allows them to play it at a slower pace, and it's what they'll want to continue to do and not let Indiana drag them out of it. But solid scoring throughout the game, throughout each possession, hallmark of Beeline's offense. And that'll be the key. That'll be the key for Michigan here. Play their pace, run their offense, take care of the basketball. Indiana's going to try and get out faster, try and speed the game up, and see if they can cut down on the turnovers and sneak out a victory in Ann Arbor. Otherwise, should be fun to watch. If you find any of this interesting, be sure to head on over to StatHouseAnalytics.com. We have this for all Division 1, 2, 3 men and women's teams across the country, so hope you enjoy.